On today's episode of Tips from the Top Floor, I'll talk about Apple's new Photos app. Let's find out if it's fit to replace Aperture or even Lightroom. Also dive deep into an interesting thread on the photography subreddit. This episode is brought to you by discoverthetopfloor.com, a place to learn photography, place to photograph amazing destinations together with like-minded people from all over the world. The Ethiopia tour is ready for booking. I will come to the United States in October. New York City is almost sold out. San Diego is almost getting to being sold out. And the September tour in Donegal is almost ready for booking. This will be opened in the next few days. So find out more at discoverthetopfloor.com. This is Tips from the Top Floor, episode 678 for Thursday, April the 9th, 2015.
Tips from the top floor, tips from the top, all right, from the top floor.
Hey, hello and welcome. This is Chris Marquardt. And yeah, you're listening to the longest running photo podcast on the web. I'm doing this from the Viewfinder Villa, and I'm happy that you tuned in. And this is I'm not kicking this episode off with a listener question just because I wanted to get this one thing out of the way, and that's Apple's Photos app is out, and I've received so many questions about, will it be able to replace Aperture? Will it be able to replace Lightroom? Should I switch? And I've spent a few hours with it, and so I want to talk about this in today's episode. I want to talk about a post that I found on Reddit in the photos section, in the photography section, that really kind of drove home a few points for me. So I want to talk a bit about that. It's about why are you not a great photographer? I think that's about it. I'm paraphrasing, but why aren't you a great photographer? And I can ask myself that question as well as anyone else. So let's have a look at that. But first, let's talk about a new piece of software. Apple's Photos app is out. Woo! Well, let's find out how woo that actually is. Here's my quick initial review. First of all, I did spend like a couple of hours with Photos app. I actually updated my main system to 10.10.3, macOS 10.10.3, and the Photos app comes with that. Yes, I'm living on the edge. First, let me get that big question out of the way. Is it a Aperture or Lightroom replacement? No, it's not. It's clearly not. But it has its appealing sides, and I think it will actually be quite a success, despite of the current limitations. Now, this thing is blazing fast. That's one of the things I noticed right away when opening this. It had actually automatically migrated my iPhoto library. It will do the same thing, I guess, when you do when you use Aperture. It will not delete the old library, so you can go back if you have Aperture and you figure out that this is not quite what you were looking for. Then you can still go back. So. But it was astonishingly fast. The scrolling, even with a lot of pictures, was very smooth and fast, and no real waiting for any loading of pictures. What they do is they have like an occasional blurry thumbnail that is like down-resed in some way, so it loads faster. And then when you stop, it loads the rest of the thumbnails. But that rarely ever was visible to me because it was so fast. So it was pretty swift, and I was quite impressed by that speed. It's very simple, at least, let's say it's deceptively simple. The Photos app looks deceptively simple when you first start it. And then, it reminds of the Photos app on iOS. It works well with a trackpad. You can like a pinch to zoom, and you hit enter to edit a picture. And if you're a kind of a taskbar person, you will actually be able to open a sidebar and get your folders and your events, your previous events that have been converted and things in there. So it's kind of a really simple looking thing, but there's actually quite a lot under the hood. There are keyboard shortcuts. If you're a Lightroom user like me, you will have like a handful of keyboard shortcuts that are kind of ingrained and kind of in your muscle memory. You have to relearn some of those, but it's not actually too hard. Like opening an image in adjust mode, which is kind of similar to the develop mode in Lightroom. You hit the A key. If you want to apply filters, you hit the F key. If you want to put a little heart on it, like put it in your favorites, you hit the period key, and a few more. So you can speed up. It is not necessarily just a pure mouse or trackpad oriented tool. Also, going between pictures obviously also works using the cursor keys left and right, and so on. Organization in there, yeah, there's not a favorite kind of structure, no flags and things. Just the favorite. The heart, but not like a star system and things. You organize your photos in folders, in subfolders, and in smart folders. So you can use some of the metadata around the photos in a smart folder and have them automatically populated from your pictures. It obviously integrates into iCloud well, and we'll get to that in a minute. Back to the folders, they appear in the sidebar. They're pretty straightforward. You drag and drop pictures in there, and then you can have subfolders and have several levels deep. I didn't try. I think I tried 3 or 4 levels, and I don't know if there's a limit. There are also some built-in default folders that will automatically be populated with your favorites, with your panoramas, with your videos, with your last import, and the faces view that has the built-in face recognition. So that works reasonably well. And then the adjust module. Let's talk about the adjust module in a bit more detail. The reason why I want to go into a bit more detail is because this is pretty much what's closest to Lightroom's develop module. Now, the develop module is where you do all the global changes and the local changes to pictures. That's where you do the exposure and the contrast and the highlights and the shadows, and you change the clarity and so on. And that's pretty much what the adjust module is. So if you have a picture and you want to adjust it and edit it, you can click edit, or you can hit enter, or you hit the A key, and that will get it into this adjust module. So there's lots of ways to get there. And yes, you will find the usual suspects there. That's just the same as with most other software: exposure, contrast, highlights, shadows, clarity. Apple calls that definition, but it's pretty much clarity. Sharpening, noise reduction, vignetting, white balance, levels, histogram. So it's all there. At least for the global edits, it's there. But when you open this module at first, it does look pretty similar to the adjustment module in the iOS 8 Photos version, because it's pretty empty. You have 3 main areas: light, color, and black and white. And you can slide those and change the brightness of the picture or the saturation. But if you hover over the title, and on the right there's a little disclosure triangle, and you open that up, you will see that there are lots of things under the hood. So you will have this, you will have the exposure, and you will have the shadows and highlights sliders and things under there. So you can have the general slider, move that one, like the light slider, or if you open it up and slide the light slider, you'll see how they relate to each other, and how they will be actually based on, I think even based on some analysis of the actual image, will move in different ways. So you have a lot of stuff there. If that's not enough for you, then move your mouse up to the add menu. There's a little thing on the top of the right sidebar, and you click add, and then you will find all the others, like the levels, settings, and the histogram, and all the other ones that you can add to your interface. And then in the add menu, let me just open one here to actually, I need to actually go into this view here to change things. If you go to the add menu, there you will also have a save as default point in that menu, which will then kind of lock down those things in your interface, and you will always have them. So it is fairly complete in that respect, but not quite complete because there are no local adjustments. And that's one of the things that I probably couldn't be without anymore. So no geometry operations as well, so no lens correction in there, unless it's somewhat automated based on a lens profile, which I don't know. There's no split toning. There's not much detail when it comes to noise reduction and so on. So some of the more power user facing options aren't there. And yes, no brush to paint in local adjustments, no ND, no graduated filters and things. And it's not that I use those tools all the time, but there's something, for me at least, there's something reassuring about knowing that they are there, just in case I need them. I think that most photographers will not really need those. A seasoned aperture user might be unhappy because some of the functionality that they were used to has definitely gone missing. One of the pretty easy things to do in photos, and that is, I'm not sure who that caters to, probably the average user, like the mass audience, but it's making products, making things out of your photos, making physical things out of your photos. It makes it really simple. I mean, just putting together a book. I had a folder or an album. Is it an album? Is it a folder? I don't know. It's a folder with an album, I guess, with pictures from Iceland, and I clicked on make it into a book, and it made it into a book. Took seconds. Obviously, you can fine-tune things and put text in there and put copy in there and move things around in the book. But there's a default, and it's the fastest way I've ever seen one of these books being made. And then you can send it off. And here, at least here in Germany, there's local service providers who then print that and send it to you. You pay it. You pay those things through your through the credit card that you have listed in your Apple ID. So it's a very seamless process, and you can do books, calendars, and postcards and regular prints. So there's some making and turning your pictures into physical media in there, which I'm very surprised how well that was made. And it is something that I have tested now. I've actually ordered a book and a calendar, and I will report back on the quality, even though I'm not sure this will be exactly the same all over the world, because there will be different labs who will handle those things. But at least for the German market, then I will be able to say something about that. iCloud, that's a scary thing. Well, it's scary and cool at the same time. If you enable iCloud Photo Library, all your photos will be uploaded to the cloud and then will be made available on all your other devices where you have iCloud Photo Library enabled. Okay, and here is one last warning, and I ran into this, and it clearly shows that the Photos app isn't ready for prime time yet, at least with a semi-professional use in the back of your mind. And what I did is I tried to import a month's worth of pictures, 3,500 pictures. That's from one of my trips. That was from the Ethiopia trip in November. So I took the Ethiopia November folder with the raw files and just pulled it into the Photos app. And before I did this, I set the Photos app to, you can do this in the preferences, to not import pictures into the library, but to reference them, to leave them where they are. So that was, from my point of view, a safe way to test how endurable this little app is. And I must say, it didn't fare well at all in this little test. 90 gigabytes worth of pictures. Do not try this at home, because what happened is that there's a process on my system. It's called Photo Library D. It's a daemon that runs in the background, and that apparently didn't like this onslaught of photos, which I don't think is that much, actually. I mean, you can easily hold 3,500 pictures in your library. You can probably even easily hold 5,000 or 10,000 pictures in that library. Shouldn't be a problem, but the import is somewhat broken. At least Photo Library Daemon decided to use 42 gigabytes of memory on my system, which ended up and it doesn't have that. It has 16 gigabytes, and 42 gigabytes is just way over the top. And it ended up pretty much bringing my system to a screeching halt. And when I say my system, this is a 5K iMac, and it's not the smallest model. So it is a system that should have no problem handling that. So the application is not there yet when it comes to importing big piles of pictures. I expect an update for that pretty soon, because I think they will be swamped with people shouting at them, and that's not what's going. That's not going right. What I think is one of the biggest problems. I don't think the Photos app is the problem here, even though that's poorly programmed. That's poor programming. That's sloppy. That should have been caught. But it's the setting of expectations by Apple, and that's what irks me here a bit. There's a company that pretty much shuts down Aperture. They stop development. They tell people this is going to be replaced by the Photos app. The Photos app is not quite up to par, but you would still expect to be able to use it in very much the same way. And even though I didn't try it, I suspect that Aperture wouldn't have choked when you would have given it 90 gigabytes worth of raw files. So the expectations that were set were not the right ones in this case, and that's what bothers me most. So let's see. I still have high hopes for the future of Photos app. There is a lot on the horizon. They have a few things to fix and a few things to get right, but it's a first shot. And if you have an existing Aperture library, you can just play with it. You can try it. You can migrate your library without losing the old one. So you'll be on the safe side trying it, and migration should work just fine, no matter how many pictures you have in there. That's at least my expectation. But it's definitely not quite there yet.
Down on that instrument.
People, there is music in your head. There's music playing in your head. So listen, listen to every word I said. There's music playing in your head. Pay attention.
Okay, you know the drill. This is the point where I ask you for your opinion. You actually have the chance to open this show, and I can't tell you often enough how much I love hearing your voices here. And it doesn't matter if it's a question, if you came across a funny story, or just have some general feedback for the show. And it's also really, really easy. Go to tfttf.com. Doesn't matter if you're on your computer or on your iPhone or on your Android phone, and just click the orange tab and then just record something. And before you send it off, you get to re-listen to it. So if you don't like what you recorded, just discard it. And of course, the phone lines are open too in the United States. That's 206-202-DSLR. Again, 206-202-3757. And internationally, dial +44 7005 805 742. I want to hear from you.
There's music playing in your head. Pay attention.
This episode is brought to you by lynda.com, the online learning platform with over 3,000 on-demand video courses to help you strengthen your business, technology, and creative skills. Lynda.com is for problem solvers, for the curious, for people who want to make things happen. Maybe you want to master Photoshop or Lightroom, or get a first look at the Photos app. They even have that. Go to lynda.com and feed your curious mind. Here are some of their new photography courses. Let's see, enhancing underwater photos with Photoshop, or they have photos for OS X first look in there. So they're really quick with these things. And here's one, creating time-lapse movies with Lightroom and LR time-lapse. With lynda.com, you can watch and learn from top experts who are passionate about teaching, browse each course transcript to follow along, or search for an answer and skip to that point in the video. Take notes as you go and refer them later. Download tutorials and watch them on the go, including access on your iOS or Android device. And create and save playlists of courses you want to watch to customize your learning path, or share with friends, colleagues, and team members. Your lynda.com membership will give you unlimited access to training on hundreds of topics, all for one flat fee. Whether you're looking to become an expert, you're passionate about a hobby, or you just want to learn something new, I want you to visit lynda.com/topfloor and sign up for your free 10-day trial. That's lynda.com/topfloor. And I thank them for supporting Tips from the Top Floor.
Down on that instrument.
So I read a lot of stuff on the internet about photography. I browse different forums and different blogs and things. And I also, every now and then, have a look at the photos subreddit on Reddit. And photography subreddit, that is. And I use some of that information and put it into a bunch of links newsletter, which you can find at chrismarquardt.com. And once a month I send this out. And but sometimes I run across an entry there that is just that just hits home with me. And this one really did hit home with me. It's a question on Reddit that a user named Queenaman Kingdom posted, and it's the following question. Why aren't you a great photographer? Tell me your plan to become a better one year from now. Here's the twist. This plan cannot be about gear. So a 5D Mark III and an 85 1.2 is not an answer. 1 year from now, you'll be better. What will you work very hard on? And of course it hits home with me. It's not about gear, it's about other things in photography that will make you a better photographer. So that much is clear, but then I just went over the comments. But at this point of recording, it's about at 150 comments, this one thread, because it really seemed to have rung home with a lot of other photographers. And let me just read some of the answers to you. There are some interesting threads that came from this one question. Why aren't you a great photographer? Okay, user 53 says, I'm not aiming to be a great photographer. I probably won't be working very hard at all. I will continue to take photos and learn what does and doesn't work, but won't feel that bad if I don't make leaps and bounds every time I shot. Okay, that's a very good way to look at it. Don't worry too much about it, because worrying too much about it might be counterproductive. Okay, next one. This one is actually by the original poster, Queenaman Kingdom. I need to work more with people. I'm too shy directing people and need to change that. Also, style and color. I know how to make good and well-balanced pictures. I'm learning color grading. This is hard, but it's like music. I know the theory, but I can't play jazz. I need to work finding my own style. I have pieces of it on composing, for example. I can visualize what kind of color treatment I want, but I have a hard time doing it. Very frustrating. And in regards to his first point, where he says he needs to work more with people because he is too shy directing people, he gets an answer by PD Grizzles. Don't tell them what to do. Pose your own body and they will copy. And the answer to that is, honey, the photographer you hired is acting weird again. Why is he kissing his tripod? So, lots of humor in these discussions. User Helix writes, becoming better at post-processing. Hands down the biggest thing I'm struggling with currently. I know what I want a photo to look like, but still struggle with getting it there in post. Well, I'll just let that sit there. SPSPRD writes, my anxiety about being able to comprehend even half of what is talked about here. Things like ISO, aperture, and shutter speed do not come naturally to me, so I end up taking many more photos than I should, just hoping to get something right. I don't aspire to greatness, I'm just an old lady with a gardening blog, so most of my photos would be completely uninteresting to many people, but I want to nail the photos I want. Oh, and improving my macro skills. Oh, and figuring out why it is that every time I walk out the door with a tripod, the wind kicks up. So, the cameras do a lot these days. So understanding ISO, aperture, and shutter speed it helps, but it's not really a requirement to get started with photography. And you write that you end up taking, or she writes, she ends up taking many more photos than she should, just hoping to get something right. You know what? There's nothing to feel ashamed about, because that is what most photographers do. They shoot way more than they need, just to make sure they cover their bases. Okay, Cakes and Pies writes, I shoot a lot of nature / landscape sort of things. I need to really think about the scene more than I do. I feel like some of my shots are rushed because I see another scene 200 yards over there that might provide a better vantage point. Guess I need to learn how to evaluate those situations better. Sometimes I'm like a beagle that's tempted with eating food or playing with a ball. Food, ball, food, etc. I also need to take fewer photos of a particular scene. I'm sick of getting home and loading the images into Lightroom and think, why do I have 5 images of the same scene shot with the same settings? Oh, and then he edited that and added the following. I'm not aiming to be a great photographer. I just want to shoot things that I enjoy shooting with no pressure to produce something great. Okay. It's interesting how many different approaches to this question came up. This one is good. PSP Reddit writes, poor marketing skills, be unashamed in putting self out there, which is answered by another user. Don't be unashamed, be proud. Quite a difference between the two. I fully agree there. Being unashamed is a very different thing than being proud of what you do. Everyone should be proud of their photos because your photos, the ones that you took, have a big, great meaning to you. Maybe not to anyone else, but they have a meaning to you, so they are by definition good photos. Judge Denny writes, actually getting off my ass and shooting the things I want to shoot. Probably try not to get so frustrated when a shot or a shoot doesn't work out as planned and try to analyze what went wrong and correct it for next time. The above is more for product food shots. Also understanding how to better post-process my photos in Lightroom. Okay. It's interesting. There are a few further down that talk about learning more post-processing. Whereas I found over time that post-processing should be or is often the smallest part in the photo. What's in the photo is way more important than what it looks like. And then if you have a good starting point, it will be kind of self-evident what you need to do in post-processing, so you don't have to do a lot of guesswork. Funk of Ages writes, because that's the username, Funk of Ages. Because I don't really have anything to express, my plan is to start a YouTube channel with a bunch of reviewers and funny voices and a wild attitude. Okay, that does not really have anything to do with this. Scott A. Mains writes, kit and show and knowing how and what to shoot isn't a problem. Speaking to people is fine, as well as maintaining client relationships. But the biggest problem I've got is my post. I get complacent and need to spend more time upping that game. Interestingly enough, I spend most of my time at the actual act of photography now and not in post-processing. I've cut that time back dramatically. I love Facebook writes, I will continue to follow photographers out in the field and see how they react to situations and try and learn from that. And he or she gets an answer like stalking. And I love Facebook writes back, no, I work at a TV station. On occasion, I'm able to assist on stories. So if you have that opportunity, watching other photographers is actually one of the best ways to learn. Watching and mimicking, and that's one of the reasons I started the Watch This category. If you go to tfttf.com/watchthis, that has several videos that are interesting because you get to look an actual photographer over the shoulder and learn a bit about why they do this and how they do this. And I've learned tons of these. I've learned tons from these. This is good. Amplexus23 writes, I'll have my new camera completely mastered. This isn't about gear. I've owned it for 3 brutal winter months. And I'll have enough shooting street night under my belt that I'll be less likely to say, F it, it's too cold to go outside and shoot, but there's nothing in here I want to shoot, so I'll sit and read photo blogs on Reddit. It's a trap. Go outside. Reading blogs is fun. Yes, it is. But if that leads you to not go out, go out. Leave your comfort zone. Go out. At weird times as well. It does work. Oh, next one. Age Owns writes, I do good at setting impossible goals and then break it down to figure out how close I can get, exhausting all options. I've gotten pretty comfortable shooting concerts and it's still my first love, but I missed a bit of the challenge from when I first started. So I've been trying my hand at sports. It's much more difficult nailing shots that you need. With live music, I need about 30 kick-ass shots. With sports, if your kick-ass shots are not off the guy that won, they're worthless. Also, they are moving, not concerning themselves with looking kick-ass. I'm trying to get some published, which keeps me doing my best. One day I'd like to get sent to the Olympics. Like I said, pick an impossible goal and figure out how far I can get. So, it doesn't really have to be an impossible goal. It has to be a goal. And of course, a goal, if you set the goal too low, then it's not a real goal because you're not leaving your comfort zone. If the goal is too high, you might get discouraged. So choose a goal that kind of fits within your willingness of leaving your comfort zone. But maybe then, once you found a goal that works for you, set it slightly higher just to get slightly out of your comfort zone. Well, I think that's some of the most important ones here. Even though, again, 150 comments, there's lots to read. I will link to this in the show notes for sure. And let me ask you this question. Why aren't you a great photographer? Tell me your plan to become a better photographer 1 year from now. And again, the twist is this cannot be about gear. So within that year, what will you do to become a better photographer? All right, that was it for today's episode of Tips from the Top Floor. Oh, by the way, since I started recording this, I have also taken a little break and I did a live Periscope session on the Photos app. So if you want to watch a 15-minute recording of that, you can go to tfttf.com/photosqa. That's PHOTOSQA. I'll link to that in the show notes. And if you have the Periscope app on your iDevice, then you can re-watch that. And I hope that is helpful to you. Again, go to discoverthetopfloor.com to find out about all the amazing workshops. And if you want to support the show, go to patreon.com/ no, actually it's tfttf.com/Patreon. That's the easier link to remember. tfttf.com/Patreon. Get rewards for your support. Music for the show by Jeff Smith. The Natives of the New Dawn and Hans-Peter Kagrud. Publishing of the show is done by Release Pixie Matt Rev Sitar Armstead. And here's another chapter from A Lesser Photographer by C.J. Chilvers. Find your balance. That's the disease you have to fight in any creative field. Ease of use. Jack White. The more fun something is to use, the more you'll use it. Creativity is spurred when there's just enough pain to prompt thought, but just enough fun to keep you clicking the shutter. I'd go back to pro-level gear tomorrow if I thought I could rely on my brain to consistently deliver better ideas with automated equipment. That just isn't the way my brain works. If given the chance to be lazy, it will. It'll tell me to use the equipment to produce the same kind of images I've seen in all the books. I suspect that's true of most people. Gear is not the enemy. Surrendering creativity for automation is the enemy. Looking for features instead of benefits is the enemy. Not doing the work is the enemy. Every photographer has to find that boundary between the pain and the fun to be at their most prolific. When's the last time you went looking for yours? Gear is not the enemy.
I remember that I told you there'd be sunshine after rain.
All right, that was it for today's episode of Tips on the Top Floor. Thank you so much for being tuned in, and I hope to talk to you again next week. Take care and go and shoot great photos, and happy shooting.